Welcome back to Crime Scene 24/7. And if you're new here, subscribe now for real investigations and full case breakdowns. A bombshell just dropped in the Kouri Richins case. The defense says their star witness, Robert Crozier, has recanted a key claim that he supplied fentanyl to a housekeeper who allegedly bought it for Kouri. A reversal that, the defense argues, eviscerates the prosecution's timeline. Richins' attorneys now say prosecutors failed to disclose interviews and records tied to Crozier's statements, and they've asked the court to reconsider bail and turn over all communications that could clear their client. If true, this newly revealed evidence could reshape a case that has gripped Utah. An author accused of poisoning her husband with fentanyl, now arguing that the state's cornerstone witness admits he was wrong, or at least wrong about what he once told investigators. So tonight, did the prosecution withhold exculpatory evidence, or is this another twist in a long, complicated investigation? The answer could decide whether Kouri Richins walks free or remains behind bars as her trial approaches. March 4th, 2022, Kamas, Utah, a quiet, upscale neighborhood tucked against the mountains. Inside one of those homes, 39-year-old Eric Richins kissed his wife goodnight after celebrating a new business deal. By morning, he was dead. The 911 call came just after 3 a.m. Kouri Richins, his 33-year-old wife, sobbing on the phone. "He's cold. I don't think he's breathing." Paramedics arrived within minutes, but nothing could be done. Eric was pronounced dead at the scene. At first, police suspected a sudden medical event, a heart attack, maybe a seizure. But the autopsy told a different story. Eric's system contained 5 times the lethal dose of illicit fentanyl, so much that investigators said it would have killed him almost instantly. Friends told detectives the couple's marriage had been strained. Kouri was deep in debt, and Eric had been looking into divorce. One friend said Eric confided he believed his wife was trying to kill him. Another revealed Eric once became violently ill after drinking a cocktail she had prepared. Then, investigators found something chilling. Days before Eric's death, Kouri allegedly texted a friend asking for some of that Michael Jackson stuff, slang for a potent opioid. Within a week, prosecutors say she paid thousands of dollars for a batch of fentanyl. As police dug deeper, they discovered Kouri had purchased a $2 million life insurance policy on her husband and stood to gain millions more if he died. But when detectives interviewed her, she denied everything. "I didn't do this. I loved Eric." Still, something wasn't adding up. And as investigators pulled data from her phone, one text stood out, a deleted message about a backup plan, sent just hours before Eric died. But the real twist wouldn't come from a text message. It would come from a witness the state said could prove she planned it all. When detectives with the Summit County Sheriff's Office opened a formal homicide investigation into Eric Richins' death, they began by tracing the source of the fentanyl that killed him. A breakthrough came when a known drug dealer, identified in court documents as CL, admitted that Kouri had contacted her multiple times in the weeks leading up to March 4th. According to the witness, Kouri first asked for pain medication. Days later, her messages changed. She wanted something stronger. Eventually, she requested what she described as the Michael Jackson stuff. Investigators later confirmed that the powder CL sold to her tested positive for illicit fentanyl. The timeline was damning. Phone records placed Kouri near the dealer's home days before Eric's death. Surveillance footage captured her picking up a package, and in one deleted text, recovered through forensic extraction, Kouri thanked the dealer and asked if she could get more of the same. Meanwhile, financial records revealed another layer. Just 2 weeks before the poisoning, Kouri took out multiple life insurance policies totaling over $2 million, naming herself as the sole beneficiary. Investigators also uncovered that she had attempted, unsuccessfully, to change an existing policy on Eric's life to remove his business partner and list herself instead. But there was more. Police discovered a series of Google searches on her phone in the days surrounding Eric's death. Can police track deleted messages? How long does fentanyl stay in the body? Can you overdose someone without them knowing? As the evidence piled up, Detectives obtained a warrant and arrested Kouri Richins in May 2023, charging her with aggravated murder and possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute. In a press briefing, Summit County Attorney Margaret Olson stated, "This was not an accident. This was calculated. This was intentional. And this was about money." Still, Kouri maintained her innocence. Through her attorney, she claimed Eric had been addicted to painkillers and may have ingested the fentanyl on his own. They also pointed to inconsistencies in the dealer's story, suggesting CL was lying to reduce her own sentence. But then investigators found one more piece of evidence, one that would turn the case on its head. On Kouri's laptop, prosecutors say they discovered an unpublished manuscript for a children's grief book titled "Are You With Me?" written after Eric's death and dedicated to "the love we lost too soon." To investigators, it looked like a trophy, evidence of premeditation. But to Kouri's defense team, it was proof of her innocence, a grieving widow processing unimaginable loss. And yet, there was one final witness investigators were about to bring forward, someone who claimed Kouri had confessed to the killing in her own words. But when that witness took the stand, their testimony would reveal a side of Kouri no one, not even her closest friends, had ever seen. Kouri Darden Richins wasn't the face anyone expected to see at the center of a high-profile murder case. To neighbors in the small mountain town of Kamas, Utah, she was a devoted mother of 3, a successful real estate agent, and, until the night of March 4, 2022, a loving wife. But detectives were starting to see a different picture, one driven by greed, resentment, and cold calculation. Born and raised in Utah, Kouri married Eric Richins in 2013. Friends described their early relationship as passionate but strained over the years by financial disputes and conflicting ambitions. Court filings later revealed that the couple's marriage had been tumultuous for at least 5 years before Eric's death. Family members testified that Eric had confided in them about wanting a divorce, and, more chillingly, that he had begun moving his assets into a trust to keep them away from Kouri. Investigators also discovered that Kouri was under intense financial pressure. Her real estate business had stalled, and she was reportedly in deep debt. In one instance, prosecutors said she forged Eric's signature to take out a $250,000 home equity loan, something Eric only learned about weeks before he died. But the motive didn't end with money. In a stunning development, Eric's family told police he had privately expressed fear that Kouri might try to kill him. Months before his death, Eric had fallen violently ill during a Valentine's Day dinner prepared by Kouri, a meal investigators now believe was poisoned. Eric survived that night, telling a friend he suspected Kouri was behind it. He didn't report it to police. The portrait prosecutors painted was chilling, a woman determined to solve her problems, financial and marital, through murder. And the most devastating testimony came from a person once inside Kouri's confidence. A close friend whose identity was sealed in court documents claimed that Kouri had joked months before Eric's death about how easy it is to make someone disappear if you're smart. That same friend told investigators that Kouri had admitted to buying fentanyl, calling it insurance for a messy situation. But the defense was ready with a counterattack. They painted Kouri as a scapegoat, a grieving widow being railroaded by circumstantial evidence and unreliable witnesses. They argued that the prosecution's star witness, CL, had multiple felony charges and strong motivation to lie. They also questioned the chain of custody of key evidence, hinting that reasonable doubt was everywhere. And then, as prosecutors prepared their case, Kouri made a decision that shocked even her attorneys. She agreed to speak, not to detectives, but to the world. In a handwritten letter obtained by prosecutors from her jail cell, Kouri claimed she was the victim of a setup orchestrated by people close to Eric's business. She hinted at threats, hidden deals, and enemies Eric had made in his contracting company, and a claim investigators could neither fully confirm nor dismiss. But there was one detail in that letter investigators couldn't ignore. Kouri wrote that she regretted not listening to the man who offered to fix everything. Prosecutors now believe she was referring to the same individual who supplied the fatal dose of fentanyl.
But when investigators dug deeper into that mysterious connection, the so-called man who could fix everything, what they uncovered would blow open the case and expose a link far darker than anyone imagined.
The arrest of Kouri Richins sent shockwaves far beyond the quiet mountain town of Kamas. What began as a tragic and suspicious death had now exploded into a legal and media firestorm. Overnight, Kouri's face was everywhere, splashed across national headlines, dissected on talk shows, and debated endlessly on social media. For Eric Richins' family, the arrest was a bittersweet milestone. They had long suspected that Eric's death was no accident, that the woman he once loved had betrayed him in the most unimaginable way. At an emotional press conference, Eric's sister tearfully told reporters, "We warned him. We told him to leave. But he believed she would never hurt him." The words cut deep, underscoring the heartbreak behind the headlines. But public opinion was anything but unified. Kouri's defense attorney, Sky Lazaro, took to the airwaves almost immediately, calling the case a rush to judgment built on flimsy evidence and sensational headlines. In interviews, Lazaro claimed the state was trying to win in the court of public opinion before they even set foot in a courtroom. Meanwhile, the prosecution doubled down. They unveiled even more damning evidence, including financial documents showing that just days before Eric's death, Kouri had attempted to increase her husband's life insurance policy to $2 million without his knowledge. And then there was the book. In a move that left prosecutors furious and victims' advocates stunned, Kouri had self-published a children's grief book titled, "Are You With Me?" just a year after Eric's death. Marketed as a heartfelt guide to helping children cope with loss, the book's release was hailed as therapeutic, until prosecutors called it an obscene display of manipulation. During a preliminary hearing, one investigator testified, "She profited emotionally and financially from a death she is accused of causing." The public outrage reached a boiling point. Protesters gathered outside the Summit County Courthouse, holding signs that read, "Justice for Eric," and "Poison isn't parenthood." News crews from CNN, NBC, and Dateline set up camp outside the courthouse, turning every motion hearing into a spectacle. But amid the fury, an unsettling question began to surface. Was Kouri Richins really the mastermind, or was there someone else pulling strings in the background? Court filings hinted at the involvement of another figure, the so-called fixer mentioned in Kouri's jailhouse letter. Prosecutors hinted they were investigating potential co-conspirators who might have helped her obtain the fentanyl. FBI agents were quietly brought into the case, and sealed warrants suggested they were tracking encrypted communications tied to the drug purchase. Even Eric's family, while convinced of Kouri's guilt, began to wonder aloud if more arrests were coming. "I don't think she did this alone," Eric's brother told a reporter. "There's too much we still don't know." Meanwhile, the political fallout was just beginning. Utah lawmakers began debating new legislation that would tighten regulations on life insurance policies after multiple suspicious deaths in the state were linked to sudden policy changes. Advocacy groups called for greater oversight of online fentanyl sales and stronger federal crackdowns on suppliers. But through all the noise, the headlines, the hearings, the protests, one truth remained painfully clear. 3 young children were now without their father, and the woman accused of taking his life was writing letters from a jail cell proclaiming her innocence. But just when the case seemed airtight, prosecutors confident, the public outraged, a shocking discovery inside Kouri's jail cell would turn everything upside down and cast doubt on everything investigators thought they knew. It happened during a routine search, a standard security sweep inside the Summit County Jail. But what officers found in Kouri Richins' cell would explode the case wide open. Hidden inside a folded legal pad, wedged between handwritten notes to her attorney, was a 6-page jailhouse letter, and its contents stunned investigators. The letter, later entered into evidence by prosecutors, appeared to be a carefully crafted set of instructions for a witness. In it, Kouri allegedly told her mother to deliver a message to her brother, urging him to testify that Eric had been addicted to pain pills and that he might have taken fentanyl on his own. "Just say he was popping pills all the time," the letter read. "Make them believe he did this to himself." The revelation sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Prosecutors argued this was witness tampering, a desperate attempt by Kouri to rewrite the narrative and create reasonable doubt. Summit County Attorney Margaret Olson told reporters, "This is not the behavior of an innocent woman. This is someone actively trying to manipulate testimony." But the twists didn't stop there. Digital forensics experts revealed they had uncovered encrypted messages on Kouri's phone, some sent just days before Eric's death, that linked her to a known fentanyl supplier in Denver. According to investigators, the messages referenced 5 more of the same stuff and included coded discussions about payment through cryptocurrency. And then came the most chilling discovery yet, a previously unknown life insurance application for an additional $500,000 policy, submitted under Eric's name, and allegedly forged. The application was filed just 2 weeks before his death. Prosecutors claimed it was more proof that the motive wasn't grief. It was greed. Meanwhile, defense attorneys scrambled to spin the narrative. They argued the jailhouse letter was fiction, a brainstorming exercise Kouri had written out of desperation. They claimed the encrypted messages were taken out of context and that no direct evidence tied her to a fentanyl purchase. And as for the insurance, they blamed a clerical error and insisted Kouri had no knowledge of it. But the public wasn't buying it. News networks ran breaking headlines like, "Jailhouse letter could sink Kouri Richins and encrypted chats expose murder plot." Analysts and true crime experts debated whether the case had crossed the threshold from circumstantial to undeniable. And just when everyone believed the story had reached its peak, a bombshell dropped from an unexpected source, an anonymous tip sent to the FBI. The tipster claimed to have information about another poisoning death in Utah with strikingly similar details, and that Kouri Richins may have been in contact with the victim's spouse just months before Eric's death. Investigators rushed to follow the lead. Could this case be part of a wider pattern? Could Kouri have played a role in more than one suspicious death? And as agents followed that trail, deeper into a web of forged documents, encrypted messages, and deadly secrets, one chilling possibility began to emerge. Kouri Richins might not just be a grieving widow accused of one murder, but part of something much larger and far more calculated. If you're drawn to real investigations, shocking revelations, and the untold truths behind the world's most chilling crimes, then this is your place. Subscribe to Crime Scene 24/7 and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single update. Because here, every clue matters, every story counts, and the truth never sleeps. In the end, the story of Kouri Richins isn't just about a husband's mysterious death. It's a chilling tale of betrayal, deception, and greed that shattered a family and captivated the nation. Eric Richins was more than a victim. He was a devoted father of 3 boys, a successful real estate investor, and a man who, by all accounts, loved his wife deeply. Friends described him as generous, driven, and always putting family first. But the person he trusted most, the woman he built a life with, is now accused of poisoning him for money. The evidence, piece by piece, tells a disturbing story. From the lethal dose of fentanyl found in his system, to the secret insurance policies and the encrypted messages, investigators believe they've assembled a timeline of premeditation and motive. The handwritten letter found in Kouri's jail cell, urging her family to shape the narrative, only deepened suspicions that this was not a tragic accident, but a calculated plan. The fallout has extended far beyond the courtroom. Eric's family continues to demand justice, speaking publicly about the pain of betrayal and the trauma of losing a loved one under such circumstances. Their attorney said, "This wasn't a random tragedy. It was an orchestrated act, and we won't rest until the truth is fully exposed." Meanwhile, legal experts say the Richins case has reignited debates about domestic homicide, financial motive, and the growing challenge of detecting digital evidence in murder investigations. The role of social media, encrypted apps, and hidden cryptocurrency transactions has made this case a blueprint for how modern-day crime can evolve and how law enforcement must adapt. And beyond the legal system, the public is left grappling with an uncomfortable question. How well do we really know the people closest to us? How far would someone go for money, control, or revenge? As the trial looms and more evidence comes to light, one thing is certain: The story of Kouri Richins is far from over. And the haunting truth is this: a young father is gone, 3 children are left without their dad, and a community is still searching for answers. This case isn't just about guilt or innocence, it's about trust and how easily it can be broken. Was Kouri Richins a grieving widow caught in a web of circumstantial evidence, or a calculating killer who believed she could outsmart the system? That answer and the final chapter of this story will be decided in court. Now it's your turn to weigh in. After everything you've heard, the fentanyl evidence, the handwritten letter, the secret insurance policies, do you believe Kouri Richins is an innocent woman wrongly accused, or a calculating killer who thought she could get away with murder? Drop your theory in the comments below. I read every single one and feature the most compelling takes in future episodes. And if deep dive investigations like this are your thing, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because next week on Crime Scene 24/7, we're uncovering another case of betrayal, murder, and hidden truths that shocked an entire community. Here, the evidence speaks, the stories haunt, and the truth never sleeps.